What is up, guys? Welcome to a final edition of Worth a Watch with me, Flores. It has been a long year, a really long year, for so many films, so little time. This is going to be my most disappointing films of 2011. Now, you see, when I say disappointing, I did this for my summer best and worst list, and the reason why I'm saying disappointing is because I either had some sort of anticipation or I just found them to really piss me off. Because I thought they would be okay at least, and then they turned out to be complete garbage. So without further ado, let's talk about some really shitty movies for one last time before this year is over with, shall we? Cue the intro, and here we go.
'Cause he's going the distance. He's going for speed. She's all...
On my number 10 spot is the movie The Dilemma. The dilemma, more likely, is it how the hell was this movie going to make any money? It didn't. Now, that's the dilemma that Ron Howard, Vince Vaughn, and Kevin James all have on their plates for the rest of for the rest of their careers. It was a box office bomb back in January, and let me just say this. I expected this movie not to be great. I expected that at least Ron Howard, a great director of our time, would do something with this little comedy, even though if it was basically simple, much like a sitcom-style premise, but even then, I knew these guys are talented. Vince Vaughn and Kevin James are funny guys. But sadly, we were all proven wrong. And in my case, this has made my list because it was just so bland, very unfunny slapstick, and I don't know. It was just the blandness of it all. But this is what Ron Howard and company decided. The script was written. I'm already getting upset. So the dilemma, you have a whole other dilemma to figure out yourself. Is why the hell were you made? Next up is number 9. We got Contagion. Either way, you have a great solid cast. Anyone from Matt Damon, Gwyneth Paltrow, Jude Law, Bryan Cranston, Lawrence Fishburne, Marion Cotillard, and a whole few other random people that I can't remember right now. You have this excellent cast with the very great atmosphere built by Steven Soderbergh, and it built up a lot of dramatic tension. The first hour of this film, you felt the fear. Hell, you didn't want to even blow your nose, let alone be next to someone who would sneeze next to you, because that would freak the shit out of you. And then the other hour and a half kicked in, or hour, I can't remember how long this movie was. But boredom set in. Believe it or not, in an outbreak film, how do you let boredom seep in? I'll tell you how. By having so many storylines like another movie we all just heard about, and go nowhere with all those storylines. It's just half the time you forget who's in this movie, or you forget why they're doing such and such in medical jargon up the ass. It's just annoying. I heard that they did research on this film on how to do this right, which was true. The first hour was so intense and just crazy and just scary at the same time, but at the end, it was just so oversimplified on as to how this happened. Sure, I understand. Outbreaks could happen like that. If you've seen this movie and you know what I'm talking about in regards how it all wrapped up nicely at the end, bullshit. I'm sorry. It was so tedious to get through the medical stuff and everything, and then for it to be overly simplified like that, no, I found that a little bit insulting, and and the fact is, like I said, the storylines, half of these people, you forgot they were in the movie. That's a big problem, and that's why it's on this list. A very bland, mediocre outcome to a supposedly what could have been a great outbreak, scary film like this. Next movie. Some of you may hate me for this movie to be on my list, but either way, I have to say my opinions, guys. I'm sorry. This could have been a great animated film, a family film, whatever you want to put it. And this movie I'm talking about is Rango. Yes, Johnny Depp as a chameleon with an identity crisis, along with some great animation and good visuals and a wild western atmosphere. This could have been quite awesome for an early spring release. But what happened? Oh yeah, we forgot about a entertaining storyline. Sure, there was some great visuals, as I said, and Johnny Depp can really do no wrong. He did his best with what he can do in this film. But it went nowhere. I'm really not trying to hate on this film because it did look like there was legitimate effort put in there. Also, the snake villain in this film, too, was creepy as fuck. And it really makes you hate snakes. If you're not a fan of snakes, this guy would do it for you. So, it's not a terrible movie, but this is definitely one of my more disappointing films because it could have been much more. The Western atmosphere could have been used and emphasized a little bit more to its advantage, but instead it went the slow, drawn out pacing route. That is where a lot of kids would probably fall asleep, and I was close to it. I remember I was just like, why is this so slow? And that's the biggest flaw that kept pulling me out of this movie. Number 7, no strings attached. What can I say? I had some sliver of hope, mainly because Natalie Portman, fresh off her Oscar win for Black Swan. You got Ashton Kutcher, who's generally a funny guy. He is an asshole douchebag, but he can be funny. I mean, that 70s show proved that. And you got Mindy Kaling, and of course veteran actors Carrie Elways, from Robin Hood Men in Tights, Princess Bride, and some other movies like that. He can do comedy, but he was wasted. Same with Kevin Kline, another veteran actor, all wasted. This entire cast had nothing to do. And the worst thing was, the two leads had no chemistry, or very little to none. At least the way I felt. And Natalie Portman carried this movie, which is fine, but the fact is, in order for you to buy the romance, you gotta have to have chemistry between both people, regardless of the whole friends with benefits thing. Which, by the way, that movie was better, mainly because the entire cast had something to do, and Mila Kunis and Justin Timberlake's chemistry was way more believable than this. Oh, number 6. The Change Up. This is definitely one of the worst movies from this past summer. Yes, August is a shit pile for many, many bad movies. But what can I say? This movie had some potential, for the fact is that Ryan Reynolds has some very funny cult comedies, such as Waiting or Just Friends. Jason Bateman was just in Horrible Bosses this year. And he's done some other great work in Arrested Development, etc., etc. The point is, these guys can be funny, but they weren't because they were reduced to fart jokes and stupid physical comedy that didn't work. This could have been the Freaky Friday for the male audience. But no. And the actresses in here, Leslie Mann, Olivia Wilde, wasted. So many casts are wasted this year. What the hell's going on with these movies this year? So that is The Change Up, and I really, really didn't like it. Numero 5. Cowboys and Aliens. What can I say about this? Oh, man. A cross of two genres. Sci-fi and Western. That sold me right off the bat. And you throw in James Bond and Indiana Jones and Olivia Wilde, you got me sold. And what do, Jon Favreau? You direct a dud. You've directed Iron Man. You've directed Iron Man 2, which was a, Elf. This movie was just so well done in regards to atmosphere, visual effects, but when it came, again, to the fleshing out of the characters and the storyline, it just dropped the ball about halfway through and just decided to be an all-out stupid action flick. Much like Transformers, that's already a stupid action flick from the beginning. You don't half-ass it, start to flesh out characters, and then stop, and then just say, fuck it, we're gonna go with the action sci-fi set pieces. No, that doesn't work, and that's the way I felt this movie worked, is that they started fleshing out Daniel Craig's character, Harrison Ford's character, and Olivia Wilde. There was a mystery with her character, and you don't really get any more explanation than when about halfway when it becomes the action sci-fi set pieces. No! Jon Favreau, what were you thinking, man? No! I can't stop him, man. It doesn't make any sense, but I can tell you right now, I'm pissed before you. I don't know why I reverted to that, but I'm just gonna... I don't know. This could have been epic. This could have been another crossing of the genres classic, but no. It fell flat, and I was so disappointed with this movie. That's what makes these movies really depressing to talk about, because they could have been something, and this one could have been just... Number 4 is Thor. It kind of rhymed. Now let me just say this. Thor himself was quite awesome. Chris Hemsworth, man, I wouldn't have never picked anybody else better. He was awesome, he was funny, he was charming, he was badass. Everything you want in that kind of a character, you got it. The sad thing is, when you have, yet again, another film where it either has a bland storyline that just went nowhere, or you got another cast wasted. Natalie Portman, nothing to do in this film aside being either the damsel of distress or trying to be the assistant to the main character and really doesn't do a whole lot. You got Kat Dennings spewing out one-liners. That belongs in Two Broke Girls, not this movie. By the way, Two Broke Girls, kind of a pretty funny show. I was surprised. And Kat Dennings is still hot, but this movie, no. Didn't belong there. No. And Anthony Hopkins, oh yeah, took a nap about an hour and a half into this film. Or no, about an hour into this film. He took a nap because the whole power structure was going to shit, so he just fell asleep. No matter how dramatic you put that just sounds ridiculous. What is he? Sleeping Beauty? Aside from those funny little remarks that I've made so far, the biggest issues with this film, that I have reasonable ones at that, are that the emotions are like a roller coaster in this film. There are funny 1 second and dramatic the next. The dramatic tension comes in, especially when they're in the other world of Thor. I forgot the name. But when they're in that world, everything's dramatic, tension. It feels like an actual comic book epic. When you get to the real world, you got Kat Dennings and her one-liners and stupid slapstick comedy that happens here or there. What? That doesn't work. It doesn't. You can't do this. Up and down, up and down. That makes no sense. Why? To describe this one movie, I just have to say flip-flop. 2 words. That's it. 2 words to describe this movie. Flip-flop. Literally goes one side to the other. One side to the other. Yeah, Thor could have and another comic book hero epic. Though this movie was a box office success and many people loved it, I personally disliked it and was disappointed with it. Moving on to the next one. Oh, God. Number 3. I was really sad when I saw this movie, mainly for the fact is several reasons. 1, another bad movie for Ryan Reynolds. Secondly, this movie was more convoluted than Iron Man 2. Of course, I'm talking about Green Lantern. And this movie, granted its visuals were well done, I really dug the suits and the whole atmosphere that they made in space for the Green Lantern Corps, but story, motherfucker! Why is it that so many movies are struggling just to get a point A to point B storyline? Is that so hard? I know, yes, I'm a fucking nerd, virgin, whatever you will call me below in the comments. All I got to say is, go fuck yourself. Because, you know, we all who saw this movie this summer, you gotta think, all these movies have one major thing in common, and that is overdone visuals with a lack of story or an entirely wasted cast that did absolutely nothing for the film. Why is it this keeps happening? The story, yes, it's a very tricky one. And I have respect for Ryan Reynolds still, just a little bit, because he's done a lot better than this. He could have been, he was a little bit miscasted in my book, but overall, it's just, why? You know, just like, how did this, and you got director Martin Campbell, who directed one of the best Bond films, Casino Royale. How? Why? What? Número 2. Big Mama's house, like father, like son. Who said, let's greenlight this movie? Martin Lawrence, man, you've done better. Not lately, but you've done better. And Big Mama's house was a funny thing at first, and it was like a modern day Mrs. Doubtfire, I guess, for the 2000s. Sure. But then the second one came along, and then this epic failure. Just why? Just why? The final. The number 1 movie that disappointed me and pissed me off simultaneously is none other than one of the biggest sequels that made the most money this year, The Hangover Part 2. Now let me say this. I loved the original. I fell in love with that movie. That movie was epic on every level. As a comedy should be, it was funny, spontaneous, and just overall a laugh out loud riot. I went to the theater like 3 or 4 times to see that movie. This one, what happened? This is the biggest disappointment of the year for me, mainly because everyone here has talent. You saw that with the first film. You've seen it in some of their other films they've done since then. Zach Galifianakis, sadly, he's being typecasted lately, but he's still good with it. He still makes it funny in some fresh sort of way in any of the other movies he's done lately. It's kind of a funny story. Check that movie out. It's really good. Bradley Cooper, Limitless from earlier this year, pretty good. Ed Helms, he's in The Office, and these guys have talent. Todd Phillips has talent because he directed the first one. He directed Due Date. He directed Old School. He's directed great movies, but this one, what happened? The writers, whoever was behind, the same exact duplicate plot and story from the first one. Just some slightly darker humor, different location, and shock humor based routines that happened throughout this entire movie, which got very old very fast, and they weren't that funny. The original had just random, quirky, deadpan humor moments. This movie relied on shock humor, such as showing, tits or dick or something, any random place they could. They shoved it in our faces, and of course you got the monkey, which was kind of funny actually, but overall, it's like they didn't even try. They knew they couldn't top themselves, so just fuck it over and make the exact same movie, just with some minor differences. Well, guys, it's just a big disappointment with this movie for me. It could have been much more, and from what I understand, they're making a third one. Now they decide to make it different. Well, this list has officially made me kind of pissed off on this New Year's Eve. But anyway, guys, my best of 2011 will be coming very soon. But for now, I'm glad that we'll end the new year with just talking about the more positives coming up this year. And we'll talk about the best stuff very soon. I believe New Year's Day or the day after, I'll definitely put on my best of list. But for now, I'm glad to be rid of these movies that I've talked about with you guys today. They should have been a lot better, but they weren't. And that is the sad fact that why they were on my top disappointing films of 2011. So that is my overall thoughts, guys. Hope you all enjoyed it. And of course, these are my opinion only. I don't expect for you guys to agree, but if you disagree with me, feel free to comment below with some constructive comments. If you're just going to tell me to go fuck myself, well then, have a nice day, and I'm going to delete your comment. Anyways, that is it. That is 2011's worst shithole movies. Hope you all have had a great one. I wish you all a very happy new year, and a safe one at that. Don't get too crazy and drunk, because then you'll end up in Bangkok in a very shitty movie. So that is it, guys. Till next time, I'm Tom Flores. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, and of course, subscribe. Click that button right above my head. And of course, guys, keep going to the movies.